Hello, I'm Ben. Welcome to the channel. Today we're going to talk about what employees want by generation. So generationally, people are motivated by different things, right? They have different understandings and different skills. And so this is going to be a brief video to go through that just based on the generation that is in our working populace today. So that would be the baby boomers. Those are folks that were born from 1946 to 1964. Then you have Gen X, which is those that were born from 1965 to 1979. Then you have the millennials, which were born 1980 to 1995. And then you have Gen Z, which are those that are born after 1996. So obviously in these different age groups, people are going to be motivated by different things. And those items are going to be what they need from an employer, right? To feel secure, to feel like they fit. So we're going to talk about their best work traits first. So baby boomers, those are your folks from 1946 to 1964. That was their dates of birth. They're typically optimistic. They typically enjoy mentoring, and they typically have a strong work ethic. These folks were born at a time when people stayed at a job for a career, where people stayed at one job for a lifetime. So, those folks have different thought processes around team, being tenured and staying at a place and looking at a career. A career to them looks like a pension and looks like 20 years in one place. Okay, so that's your baby boomers. What they want from a workplace or from an employer suggests support around what a long-term person would want, right? They want a loyal employer, someone who's going to look after them, and as things change, they're going to be supportive and stick to that team that's been loyal back, right? They're going to look for a hierarchical culture, basically where there's a specific defined hierarchy. Not necessarily a big matrix organization like what a lot of large organizations do now, where there's different departments, all of which have different dotted lines and reporting chains. So they're going to look for a more simplistic hierarchical culture, because that is what hierarchies used to look like in corporations. The next is they're going to want chances to mentor others. At this point, they're probably getting closer towards the end of their career, which means there's vast volumes of knowledge in these teammates, and if you're not using them as mentors, you're missing out, right? Because there's things that have been successful for these folks for many years that they could teach others, and they're looking for respect. It's a different generation, right? These days, it's kind of hard to see respect anywhere. People put things in place where absurdity is treated as it's normal and logical, and we are asked to respect all this nonsense. At the same time, we don't give respect to those that came before us and those that taught us. So that's going to be expectation around a baby boomer and what they think is important around a workplace. So the next is Gen X. These are folks born from 1965 to 1979. Gen X are the ones that came at a time when the cultural workplace migrated from what it used to be, where you stayed at one employer and you got a pension and you did that for a lifetime, through the point now to where people are on average are changing jobs every 3 years, right? So that Gen X has seen both sides of that coin. The Gen X group have work traits that are second to none, in my opinion, meaning they're extremely independent and know how to work on their own. They're starters and independent leaders. They're innovative because they've had to make those changes. Think about 1965 to 1979. Think about when those people were growing up through the 80s and 90s, right? That's when music made the change from records all the way up to CDs, all the way up to now where it's digital. Same thing with computers. It went from where a computer with just a few megs was the size of a house, down to the fact that we're carrying terabytes on our phones now. So that generation saw all of that. So innovation is common in their lifetime. It's common in their thought processes and how they work mentally. And they're extremely strong communicators because they know the old school methods, and they know what's necessary now, and they actually know what works best between the few because they've used all of it, right? So that's Gen X. And what are they wanting from an employer? And this is a challenge, because employers, as they make the migration to whatever the day's normality is, Gen X folks are looking for a trustworthy employer, right? They want an employer that they can trust because they are independent, innovative leaders that have strong communications and strong work ethic. And so they're wanting a workplace or an employer that is loyal to them. and shows them the same loyalty that they expect for the impact that they're having. They want problem-solving opportunities. They want to be able to go in and fix problems for their employer and for their teams and make it a better situation. They want competent colleagues. You know, we're now in a time where everybody might not be as competent as the workforce used to be. So they want competent colleagues, people that can get their stuff done with normality and calmness. All the noise, all the junk, all the nonsense. Gen X really doesn't care about all that, and they don't want it. So they want competent colleagues. They want people that they can trust to do their jobs and act professionally. And the last piece is autonomy. Gen Xers are people who at this point have done a lot in their careers, and they're at the point where they're starting to hit that earning stride. So think about where your earnings come from. Between 45 and 65, you're going to earn more per year than any point in your career. So that's really where men specifically start to stride, and the women trends are starting to follow that too, for both male and female. So they're starting to stride. So that autonomy is important, so they can maximize those earnings and maximize the impact that they give their employer. Okay. So the next is millennials. These are folks that were born from 1980 to 1995. If you're born from 1980 to 1995. Think about that when they grew up in the time period that they came. They're very tech savvy because they've had to use all these new technologies. They're collaborative because these metric systems and these working with people from a distance that you didn't know or wouldn't meet. Now you're getting more to the modern business cycles where people are accustomed to work from home positions and are accustomed to working in matrix teams where people are far, far away that they work with regularly, and they're focused on the greater good. So they're no longer specifically loyal to their team or their employer or their coworkers. Now they're focused on a greater good because the world is a smaller place, and so they're more focused on that big picture. That can be counterintuitive at times, right? Because if you're not dedicated to, if you don't dance with the one that brung you, right? What are you doing? So that's something about work traits for millennials. They're tech savvy, collaborative, they're focused on the greater good. The next thing around them and what they want from an employer is, excuse me, they want an empathetic employer. They want meaningful work, and they want training for new skills as well as flexibility. So you can see as these generational gaps change, people expect different things from their employer. So the baby boomers and Gen X wanted more of a disciplined and protective, loyal environment. And now as we're moving forward through the millennials and now next to Gen Z, people are looking more for flexibility, training. They want a back and forth more than they want some of those things that the previous generations want. So next is Gen Z. These are people born after 1996. Their best work traits are they're digitally fluent, they're practical, and they flourish in diverse workforces. Because these are the youngest generation now that's currently in the workforce, and we have a new generation entering here shortly. Culturally, they're competent. They're looking for a culturally competent employer. They want competitive wages. They want mentorship and stability. So Gen Z is looking for a culturally competent employer, competitive wages, mentorship, and stability. So as you look through that migration, you can see there's a lot of differences in those who still are represented in our workforce. And as a leader, I had a boss one time that thought money motivated everybody, right? And that money was the single motivation that mattered the most. And to which my response, well, you still pay people a lot of money, they still leave. Why do you think that is? At the end of the day, these traits by these generations, that's suggestive of some of the things around motivation, right? People are motivated by different things and hold different things apparent and true. So these are what specifically stand out for these generations. I'm going to put this as the thumbnail, and you can see where this data came from. And if you have comments around there, some thoughts about this, post up that comment. Please subscribe. 97% of folks, actually 70% now, are not subscribed that are watching the content. So please subscribe if you watch the video and you got something from it. I'm Ben. Be good.